All right. It says we're live, so I'm going to believe that we're live. It's Monday at 9:30, everybody. Welcome to the Calamity Jane live stream, and it's 6:30 on the West Coast, 9:30 on the East Coast. Of course, I'm Eric. Always happy to be here. James, how are you doing?
Greetings, I am doing great. Hello, everybody out there in internet land.
Are you drinking what kind of whiskey liquid are you drinking?
This is a Glen. Okay, so our non-sponsor for tonight is a Glenlivet brand whiskey, Caribbean something. I don't have the box. I didn't. I wasn't very. That's why we don't have any
Glenlivet.
sponsors. Because I'm terrible at
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, is
at
it more like a
product
rum
placement.
then, or
No, it's actually it's considered a whiskey. It's a single malt whiskey, but it's got a little bit of a. I'm not great at describing palate, but the first word comes to mind is there's a hint of kind of fruit in there.
a hint of
Um,
fruit? Okay,
mhm.
so a
As I take a
fruity
sip for a non-sponsorship, but
Glenlivet.
yeah,
I don't is not. It's a pretty. It's not like super peaty, but it's a pretty smoky whiskey,
yeah, I
and
don't,
bringing
yeah,
bringing in a fruity flavor. That's an interesting
and I could be,
interesting.
and I'm not, my palate's not sophisticated enough to parse any other adjectives to help describe it, but that's the first thing I would say. It to me, Glenlivet's pretty smooth.
Yeah, it's a pretty drinkable whiskey. I agree.
Yeah,
A Scotch, I
versus
guess, technically.
yeah, versus Kirkland, the Costco Kirkland is a little bit more kind of have a more of a bite, you know.
Yeah, that's because it's it's a not a good whiskey.
It's not that. It's actually not that bad either. If you
Yeah,
just need something kind of in a pinch,
yeah.
that works. So I remember we did the. I think it was a stream like about a month ago or 2 months ago. I don't know. Time isn't a weird.
Yeah, time doesn't really mean
Place.
anything anymore.
But yeah, I had the whole jug of it, and I still have half of that left.
Yeah,
But
yeah, they do come in jugs, and jug is the correct technical term for how the quantities through which they sell Costco whiskey.
but I figured, uh, tonight's it's been a while since we've done a non-sponsor episode, so why not, kind of
Sounds
bring out the
good.
whiskey for tonight just to kind of say hello and chill and all that kind of stuff.
I agree.
Uh,
I agree. Well,
with all that being said, I'm going to bring up what I was going to start drawing tonight.
yeah,
You and I discussed this yesterday in our meeting on
our
Sundays,
non-broadcast meeting.
our
Yeah.
non-broadcast meeting where we plot and we plan
Yes.
off of our evil.
What are we going to do tonight, James? The same thing we try
Well,
to do every night.
yes, exactly. Yeah, it's a great set of characters and good cartoon. But I'm going to work on. So we have Wanda and Molly. So I guess tonight I'm going to be doing Molly.
Okay, great.
That's the rough sketch I did for the group shot back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna go. I'm pretty much gonna start with a blank slate again. Um, Now, last week when I was doing Wanda, I kind of like she was in my mind. Like I knew what I knew what I wanted in my mind, and I drew it out from my mind's eye onto this digital blank space. But
Mm-hmm.
with Molly, actually, I was thinking about it. Like, I know I have a general idea of what I want for her, but I
Mm-hmm.
also just kind of just typed in suburban mom and started looking around at stuff, just good ideas. But yeah, I mean, this kind of haircut that Martha Stewart has, kind of
Oh,
is kind of
sure.
what I was kind of thinking about. Something kind of shorter, or this lady here, she seems really happy, so maybe I'll go with her.
Oh, I
But
haven't. I'm only seeing Photoshop.
oh, you are interesting.
So
Okay,
yeah. So you're sharing your Photoshop screen and not your desktop, I think.
okay. So hang on a second. Let me stop share. And I will try this again. So share screen. It says screen. Share. And now what do you see?
Hey, there we go. Yeah,
Okay.
I see the suburban mom haircuts.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm thinking about Martha Stewart for one. Um,
Did you Google suburban mom haircuts to
yeah,
get these
suburban mom
photos?
haircuts, right? Well,
Yeah. Oh,
not
suburban
haircuts,
mom, but
just
yeah,
suburban mom.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
And
it
so
really is a type, isn't it?
yeah, I guess I don't know. I just thought because this is kind of the direction I wanted to go with Molly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, any of these ladies would do. But I'm not gonna like plant them in here and start drawing from them.
Right.
You remember if you like if anybody recalls, like when we were doing Doctor Exposition, I
Yeah.
actually had reference images and stuff like that. But this
Yep.
time around, I'm kind of just I already have a general idea of what I want Molly to look like, but I just wanted some just loose hints.
So you were using those haircuts as kind of an inspiration point.
Yeah, sorta. Yeah, just a general, yeah, feel for them. But I'm not. That's about it. And after that, I'm just gonna kind of just freewheel it from here on out and kind of go from there. Because I think even in the Photoshop document, this kind of rough. I mean, I was pretty happy with how she was here anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just kind of looking. I was looking for a few details, but yeah, that was about it really. So I just wanted to kind of start that off. So like, yeah, I don't really have a. So my process kind of changes sometimes. Sometimes I have something distinct in my mind, like I did with Wanda. And sometimes I want to have some loose hints, and sometimes I need a lot of hints.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, it really just depends on the character.
Well, I guess it kind of makes sense with Wanda being mostly a background character. I don't think it's as critical as someone say like Doctor Exposition, who has, I mean, like I think the third most dialogue in the episode, or
Yeah,
maybe the fourth. But I mean, she's got a lot of dialogue.
yeah. So, yeah, with her it was a little bit. Yeah, I wanted to be more attentive to Doctor Exposition as far as because she's going to be a recurring
Yeah, yeah,
character
absolutely.
for
Yeah, I mean, and more recurring, the lazier I get. So, right, just be aware that this might actually become the Doctor Exposition show, because I'm lazy and she just explains everything for me.
Yeah, those that's I like relying on that type of stuff. If need be, we have something in a pinch to kind of hit the easy button or whatever the staples
Yeah,
easy
no,
button.
absolutely.
Right?
The thing is, and I always like background characters, whether it's in animation or in live action TV, because it gives you an opportunity to grow, right? I mean, obviously, you see this the most in shows like The Simpsons or The Office, where a lot of these background characters were foils at the start, just something for the main characters to perform against, right? Barney
Yeah.
is a great example. Barney and Moe, right?
Mm-hmm.
For Homer, and both of those characters have become like just two phenomenally memorable reoccurring characters in The Simpsons. And then, same with The Office in particular. Like the reason why all of the secondary characters are named after the actual actors is because originally they were never intended to be so front and center, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
as the show grew and went on well beyond the original two series and a special that the British office had, these characters grew and they actually became some of my favorite. I mean, like, who doesn't love Creed, right? If you've seen The Office, like, just what a
I've not
great.
seen the. Yeah, I've only watched the U.S. versions. I've not seen the. I haven't seen the British version. I feel terrible about that because I am a huge fan of Ricky Gervais and everything and his stuff.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I find Ricky Gervais to be pretty hit or miss.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, his brand of embarrassed comedy, it either works completely or it falls completely on its face for me. I really loved Extras, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Extras was just super, like just really walked that fine line between being embarrassed for the characters but not losing, like not being able to be on their side, right? I
Mm-hmm.
found the British Office to be, I found his character to be irredeemable. I hated the character so much I didn't want to watch it because I felt nothing for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in my opinion, obviously I don't have any information on this, but in my opinion, I feel like the showrunners of the American Office saw that and saw how Americans would respond to it, or
Mm-hmm.
at least some Americans, like me, I guess. And they softened Michael Scott up a lot, and they added in a lot more humanity into the character. And I know fans of the British Office will say that, oh, there is some humanity in oh, his name is escaping me right now. Ricky
Yeah,
Gervais's
you're on your own.
character.
This one, I can't help you. I
Yeah.
don't. Yeah.
Um, but I didn't see it. I just found him loathsome from beginning to end.
But with the rest of the characters, so did you find yourself as a viewer rooting against Ricky Gervais's character? Um,
I
a
wouldn't
lot.
say that I was rooting against him. I just, anytime he would come on screen, I just wanted to turn the show off. Like, it wasn't, I didn't even get to the point of having an emotional reaction beyond, I have 1,000 TV shows, 1,000 video games, 1,000 books, 1,000 movies, 1,000 other things that I could be doing right now. I don't want to waste my time with this. And so I just kept turning it off, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just glad it was only 2 series in a special. But whatever. That's a complete aside. So what are you playing around with right now?
Sometimes when I'm drawing a character, and I think I've done this before, I'll actually kind of skeletonize the character a little bit on a background layer, just to check my proportions a little bit and to kind of try to respect the anatomy. Even though this is still pretty loosey goosey. I like to just kind of once in a while just spot check. It's sort of like this weird. I don't know. I just like to double check some stuff to make sure, like, I'm kind of in background mode and still drawing things to actually fit the skeletal system.
It's
quite a bit.
It's interesting. I've seen other artists do exactly what you're talking about, and in terms of sort of giving a rough idea of the skeleton, how does that assist you? I assume that it has some sort of bearing on the anatomy.
Yeah, because animation and art in general now, we've gotten to a point where you can pretty much do anything, and you don't have to really have any kind of cross check. But for me, and for this particular cartoon, I want to have some semblance of when I'm gonna be animating the characters, I want to have some sort of sense of weight and physics to them. Whenever I animate, I try to do that. Whereas some animation, you can kind of be more loosey goosey and kind of be more abstract. But I always have to have some rules in place so I can break them. But if I have no rules, then there's just complete, for me, artistically speaking, it's more like chaos. And then you have nothing to kind of break. It's already just broken, so all bets are off, kind of a thing. And then there's just fire barrels in the street and explosions in the air, and how do we get there? That I'm being a little bit melodramatic there, but that's kind of how I like to approach when I'm getting ready to animate and stuff. I want to have some sort of place where I can break the rules and then feel better about it.
Right.
I broke the rules.
Yeah, because I had rules to break.
Yes, I had rules to break. And it's just a mind trick for me.
Sure.
I'm not sure how other artsy folks do it, but that's how I like to work.
Sure, absolutely. And with the skeleton, does that give you a sense of like weight distribution or like?
Yeah, it does, because now I know where I can put, where her weight's going to be when she's kind of talking, or when she's going to walk or talk or react to something. When she's carrying as you saw in this, like she was carrying her baby, their baby. All that kind of stuff kind of comes into play a little bit. But that, more or less anything. It's just sort of like it shouldn't even be compared to this, but like just if you're preparing for a sporting event, you just do your stretches or you do your practice run of whatever it is that you're going to do in that sport, which is, for example, basketball, you're doing your free throws.
Right.
Yeah, it's sort of like just kind of getting your brain kind of in that mode.
In that headspace. I got you.
Figurative character. So I want to make sure some things are online and right. So
I got you. That makes sense. So
before we got on this call, we were talking about Mario Brothers, because the most recent iteration of Mario well, not the iteration, but the re-release of a bunch of Mario stuff came out last weekend. So
Super Mario 3D All Stars.
Yeah, you're kind of my go-to with that latest stuff on that. So you were kind of giving me a brief history on it.
Brief history, yeah. That's sort of like the brief history of the universe, Mario. So
yeah, good luck with that.
35 years. It's still simultaneously depressing and amazing.
Why? Because the passage of time is encapsulated in those.
Because I'm old enough to remember when the original Mario Brothers came out. That's why.
Yeah.
Or the original Super Mario Brothers came out.
Whatever you say, I get it exponentially affects me even more. So
yeah, I know, because you're a little bit older than I am. Even I know.
Yeah, but yes, I hear you. I do hear you on that.
Yeah, so it's sort of like wow. I mean, I remember getting the original Super Mario Brothers, and I've been a fan of that particular franchise for 35 years, I guess. Apparently, um,
Well, the original Super Mario Bros. Came out what 87 or
no,
88?
85.
85.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Jeez.
87. I think 80, 88 was Mario Brothers 3.
Okay.
Yeah, or it was at 89. Oh, damn it. Oh
Well,
well.
see, the thing that confuses me about Super Mario Brothers is I remember it in an arcade, and then they released it for the Nintendo 8-bit system.
I don't remember what came first. I'm pretty sure the console version came first, and then
Really?
there was a port to arcades, and
Oh,
that's
okay.
actually been re-released on the Switch, called
So what
Versus
version?
Mario Brothers Versus Super Mario Brothers Versus.
So what version? So what just came out on the Switch just
So
now
it was
that
just
everybody's
a
going
an
crazy about?
emulated port of Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and the first Super Mario Galaxy.
Okay.
Although
Now,
I suspect that come March, when they're gonna stop selling the game for I don't know because it's Nintendo and I don't they do weird things sometimes, all the time, most of the time. um, I suspect that what they'll probably do is they will decouple the 3D All Stars and then just start selling each game individually.
okay.
That would be my guess because it just strikes me as insane to not continue to sell that product. But who knows? I mean, they've done it before. Like when the Kirby 25th anniversary collection came out, it was a limited run of that game. But Kirby's not Mario, so. But in any case, what I suspect will happen is around that time they will announce Mario Galaxy 2 as like a $20 expansion that just gets added to the collection. That
Hmm.
wouldn't surprise me at the very least. But
So this is
yeah,
gonna be like it's gonna be like kind of a rolling. It's gonna be a rollout of Mario stuff for the
I
next.
don't. Yeah, I mean, it'll be. I mean, the rollout can only go one more game, right? Because after that, the next 3D Mario game on the consoles, at least, was Super Mario 3D World, and that is coming out as a standalone product next February.
Oh, okay. All
And
right.
then after that, Super Mario Odyssey, which obviously is it's barely 3 years old, which also is sort of remarkable to me that game came out 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, now with today's technology, I mean, if you make a good game now, it's gonna stay good for a long time.
Yeah, it just lingers. I mean,
Yeah.
and like it's crazy to me that people are like that Mario Odyssey, at least within the circles that I run in, is still very much a part of the current zeitgeist, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's almost like contrary to a lot of things because so many games are so disposable. I mean, do you remember what the last Assassin's Creed game was called?
Um, it's the one that takes place. It's the 300-ish kind of one. Odyssey, is that the one?
Well, I think you might be right. Actually, I don't. The answer is for me. I don't know. Like they come out with them so frequently, but
Yes, they do.
I can name every single Mario game, and most of my friends can too. Quite frankly.
Yeah, I don't think Assassin's Creed is even the same league as far as recognition.
I mean,
I mean,
it's a fair point.
yeah, it's I mean, Assassin's Creed. Well, for me, I mean, because I played them, I played up to Origins, I believe. Yeah, the one that takes place in Egypt, and I enjoyed them. But they started getting really repetitive, and
Yeah,
uh,
I played through Black Flag, and then I had decided that I had had enough.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah, that flag was probably my most was my favorite one actually.
it's a lot of people's favorites, and
Yeah,
I played it, and I'm like, okay, I don't need to play these games anymore.
yeah, that's a good one to stop on actually. For Assassin's Creed, I mean, number Assassin's Creed 3 was such a letdown considering
I
it was in the U.S. And,
Good lord, I know for me especially because I really enjoy American, the period of the American Revolution. I find that a really interesting time politically and just in general historically, and it was pretty clearly written almost entirely by people who don't really understand the American Revolution. And so there were swaths of historical inaccuracies, horrible mischaracterizations.
mhm.
Um, it was not, in my opinion, as thoroughly researched as some of their other games were. And the other part too about Assassin's Creed 3 is you're talking colonial United States of America. I mean, the tallest building in Boston was probably a church, and that was probably its steeple, right? Whereas in previous games, you're crawling around on things like the Hagia Sophia, right? Mm-hmm. You know, the temples of later on the pyramids of Giza and just, you know, running around in ancient Rome, for God's sake. It's just the architecture to climb on was just far less interesting in Assassin's Creed 3, which obviously there was nothing they could do about that. But slightly less interesting traversal options combined with a complete misunderstanding of the history of this country really doomed that game for me.
Well, so with Assassin's Creed, it's made by Ubisoft, so isn't that a French company? So
it is French, yeah.
So, and they have offices all over the world, although I don't know if they have anything in the U.S. I'm not sure.
I don't know if they... I mean, I'm sure that they do. Like, I don't know of any off the top of my head. Like, most of their games come from Ubisoft in Paris or in Montreal are the two big ones that I know of.
That's the ones I know of, too. I think they have one other one in Asia someplace. But
yeah, and they have a ton of satellite companies and things like that. But their main studios are the ones that always do the Assassin's Creeds. They do the Assassin's Creed. I mean, really, the game is farmed out to 1,000 subcontractors. I was talking to a friend who was an environment... I think he had some role as an environment artist on... one of the Assassin's Creed games, and the world, they're so big that they farm the environment art out to like 5 different subcontractors who are all given different quadrants of the game map to develop, and then they manage the implementation of those environments in-house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really interesting, almost like assembly line method of creating these environments, because honestly there's no other way to do it. They're so high fidelity and the worlds are so large, like you have to outsource that. It's just ridiculous. So but in any case regardless
though, Assassin's Creed doesn't hold a candle to
Mario for me, at least. And obviously, you know, there is no such thing as reality.
You know what's funny, like they said there was a period in time, and obviously the articles, that was like 20 or 30 years ago, but they were pretty much saying there was a point where Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny were the most recognizable characters in the world. This is in the mid 90s.
90s is when I think I know what you're talking about, but yeah.
Mario was quickly approaching, and or by now I think completely surpassed those two iconic characters, which is, I mean, it kind of bums me out because I love Bugs Bunny myself, but...
Yeah, well, especially Bugs Bunny. I mean, Warner Brothers has let the Looney Tunes languish, which is such a crime. I mean, I have such fond memories growing up, coming home from school and putting on Looney Tunes and watching Looney Tunes, and, you know, and then sort of some of their attempts at rejuvenating their cartoon brands with Tiny Toons and Animaniacs, and to a lesser extent Freakazoid, which still remains one of my favorite cartoons of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Animaniacs. And I heard recently that they're doing an Animaniacs reboot, but yes, I haven't followed up on that, so I don't know if it's like a cash grab or if they're really trying to bring back that property.
There was a coworker of mine that was doing storyboards on it, so and he's super talented, so
okay,
I'm sure it's gonna be great.
Cool. That's great to hear, because I loved Animaniacs.
Yeah, so I thought it was pretty exciting that they were doing that, but again, with Warner, sadly, I mean, yeah, sometimes there's a lot of missed opportunities when it comes to the Looney Tunes, where they always feel like they have to team them up with live action people such as Michael Jordan or Brendan Fraser, or soon to
Bill
be
Murray for a random cameo. Are you saying that they're going to do live action team ups with the new Animaniacs cartoon?
No. I'm going back to just Looney Tunes themselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that I liked about Animaniacs was it had a fair number of adult themes in it, right? Which is, you know, I mean, the original Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies, they weren't done for children. They were done as interludes between the features at the movie theater, and they were intended to be watched by adults, you know, and kids could be there as well. But they weren't trying to. I mean, pander's too strong a word, but they weren't trying to pander to children. And so some of the early Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies are very explicitly for an adult audience, right?
Yeah.
And while they didn't do that, obviously, with Animaniacs, because they were cartoons, unfortunately, in this country to a large extent, are geared towards children. I appreciated Animaniacs making an effort to age it up a little bit, but not in like sort of the Disney tongue in cheek. We make some oblique wordplay that only adults understand kind of way. Like the themes of Animaniacs tended to be a little bit more mature,
Yeah.
and I really like that.
Yeah. It was that show. It was it almost felt a little bit ahead of its time back in the '90s a little bit. I mean, it really was broaching. It really did walk a tightrope with adult humor, and it kind of helped revitalize what the Looney Tunes did do way back.
Oh, I completely agree. So I mean I don't know. I hope this reboot is fun because I have nothing but fond memories of Animaniacs. I used to be able to sing the country song, or was it the state song? I don't remember.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That one that Wacko or Yakko did.
Yeah, I almost kind of want you to see if you can.
I can't do it now. There's no way. But like I bet if I got on YouTube and listened to it a couple times, those dormant neurons would start firing again in my brain.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but yeah, no. So but the Mario 3D All Stars has got 64 and Sunshine and Galaxy 1 in it, and they didn't do anything really special with it. They went back and they re-exported some of the 2D sprite assets at a higher resolution, so they weren't as pixelated. They did the same thing with the user interface, and they obviously for like Mario Sunshine and Galaxy, which used the unique properties of the GameCube controller and the Wii remote respectively, they had to do a little bit of reverse engineering to make those games work. But they did a really good job of handling the transition.
So it is being emulated, right?
It is an emulator. Now, initially they thought it was Nintendo actually stole a third-party emulator and just repurposed it, but no, I'm pretty sure that they actually built the emulator from the ground up. But yeah, these are the original source code for the most part, just being emulated on the Switch. And for better or worse in the case of Mario Sunshine, where there's an emulator-only bug where debug pathing cubes to show the path of moving platforms aren't being called out of the environment. So there's all these like little gray and white debug cubes on the path of these moving elevators, which is a bug. But I don't know. Part of me wonders if they left it in on purpose because it actually makes some of the stages easier knowing where the platforms are going to go.
And which game was this one?
What's that?
Which one was this one in?
Mario Sunshine.
Sunshine, okay.
Yeah. But and then like they one second, it's pouring down rain and coming in the window. I got to close the window real quick.
Yeah, no worries.
My poor dog is losing her mind. She's terrified of thunder. This is Penny. You know Penny.
Of course.
Yes, the infamous and wonderful Penny, who's losing her mind right now. But like the other thing too is that they made sure that Mario 64 and Sunshine ran at a really solid 30 frames a second, and Mario Galaxy runs at a really solid 60 frames. So they're really really nice, smooth games. At least for me, because I really don't have much of a capacity to tell the difference between 30 and 60 frames a second. Although I was curious that I did a little research on what the maximum frame rate they've been able to have someone detect, and it's 150 frames a second.
What?
Yeah, some people can detect up to 150 frames a second.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Like I can't see the difference between 30 and 60.
Wow.
I mean, not well, at least.
Huh.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy. And apparently, the receptors in the human eye are capable of sending data to the brain at up to 1,000 frames a second. But in terms of practical visual detection, they've only seen up to about 150.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Well, so I guess all the hype about people talking about wanting games at 60 frames per second and running that way, I guess there's some there's some case to be made for it.
Oh man, 60 frames is old news. And this will be the last thing. We've actually been going for a good long time now. But I write a blog online, and some of the articles I've been working on recently are solving some technical issues with a new game, like a first-person shooter. And some of the issues that people are running into, like they're talking about, yeah, I've got my game boosted up at 150 frames a second, and when it glitches out, it drops down to 80 frames a second. That really bothers me. And I'm like, I have literally no idea. You could be telling the truth that this is a real thing, but I would not be able to tell the difference.
Wow.
And it's just really interesting. Like, 60 frames is old news, man. Old news.
Well, here I was. I'm getting ready to gear up doing animation at 30 frames per second, but now I'm thinking like, well, I need to sort of be. Maybe I should up our frame rate to 60 frames per second, make it even more work for me.
No, TV is still at 30, so yeah. I wouldn't. And movies are still at 24, so who cares?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but in any case, wow, there she is. There's Wanda for you.
Yeah, this one's Molly. I think Wanda's the.
Oh, I said Molly. I'm like, no, Molly's not right. It's Wanda. Yeah, sorry. There's Molly for you.
There's Molly. Yes, there's Molly. Again, another background character we'll probably be using here. Well, we will be using in the episode. But yeah, I think she's pretty much. That's kind of what I was aiming for her.
Cool. Very cool. Well, yeah. That's as always. We managed to come to a stopping point right on time. I think this is a pretty good stopping point for Molly right now. And but yeah, thanks for, as always, joining us, everybody on the interwebs, or catching this on the after it posts. And that was your weekly Calamity Jane live stream. Although last couple of weeks it's been less about Calamity Jane and more about us rambling aimlessly, which is fun.
No, I don't mind the stream of consciousness rambling about random video games and/or entertainment.
No. I mean, honestly, this is our life. I think viewers will get a better understanding of where our bizarreness comes from by listening to us ramble like two old men. Back in my day, we didn't have 60 frames a second. We took our 4 pixels and we were happy with it.
Yeah, you keep that up, we may have to use you as a voice.
Oh, God. In any case, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll be back here, as always, next Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 p.m. West Coast time. This is your weekly live Calamity Jane live stream. You can find us on Patreon, or go to calamityjane.rocks. That'll take you to our Patreon site as well. And you can search for us on Facebook and Twitter and all other things. Good night, everybody.
Cheers. Good night.
And stream is ended.